Alright, well, another hythloday video, unfortunately. And he's made two more, so, and the same bullshit titles. Not even an argument. Draft Science Argument Clinic. Yes, no, I made plenty of arguments. It's you who haven't provided a counter argument. I say things like, show me your good evidence of lensing existing as a concept. Your theory of light bending in gravity. Show me your evidence, your persuasive good evidence that you have enough evidence to be arrogant douches on the subject. Show me your evidence of the two-slit experiment where the pattern actually graduates without electrons, with photons. Show me the photon experiment where the mathematics is actually accurate. Show me the video on YouTube that does the two-slit math correctly with the width of the slits in it. A fundamental variable. Show me. So I keep saying, show me your evidence for your obnoxious arrogance, and then I provide a counter theory, and I say, show me its flaw. Show me where it fails. And you come up with an explanation like, oh, it fails to explain the origins of electrons. As if that isn't an insane straw man, in the sense that your theory doesn't do that with any rational coherency. Every physicist has a different explanation. All of a sudden they figured out something from the gravitational wave experiment. We figured out neutrons exploding are where gold and what was the other one? Titanium come from, but not arsenic. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's just brilliant science. And so then he has laughing at draft science. He's a joke. No, you're the joke. You don't make an argument, and then you pretend that the reason why you're not making an argument is because you're too intelligent to do it. You're too informed. You're too knowledgeable of how the universe works. Bullshit. Anyway, back to this piece of crap. I'd like to just watch them and summarize, but that would... I might have to watch them. I might have to play it after I already watched it. That would just... I have to write down time codes. No. So, we'll play this shit.
Not to say space is sucking, it is flowing.
I don't know why it jumped there. I don't remember playing this.
Okay, warming up now in the front room.
Warming up in the front room. Alright. Speed it up because that's the only way to do it also.
Hello, doggy. Just one little point, I guess, in the second half of the video I really ought to address. Emendum is like happy to latch onto the word of Max Tegmark, quote mine, allow for him, saying, it's exactly the same, only space is moving. But he's...
yeah, your witness says something, that verifies the argument, then yeah, I'm going to point out how you put a witness on the stand who made my point, and I'm going to verify that. I'm going to also say there's no evidence of your point, which is they're saying, no, it's really, really just like it, or mostly like it, or pretty close to like it, but it has some kind of huge catastrophic flaw. Because they don't think it has a catastrophic flaw as a fucking model. So again, you're the one saying, no, they really don't think that's the way it works. No, they really do think it works that way. That's why they're using those metaphors, is because they think it works like that.
Unwilling to latch on to the two words of Leonard Susskind, saying it's not to say.
No, it's not to say. He didn't say it's not to say. He said, look, I'm not saying it is. That's what he said. He says, I don't know. He might think it's a hologram. He might think it's made out of, jiggly-boo. Who cares what he thinks it's made out of? Who cares? The point is, he's not saying it is. He's not saying it isn't. He's saying he doesn't know, but he's saying, yes, this model certainly it has all the components of the right answer. He doesn't say it doesn't have the components of the right answer.
Three words. Not to say space is sucking, it is flowing. Yeah? However many words, yeah? That's quote mining. The Max Tegmark is clearly illustrating his point. Oh, and in the philosophy.
They're both illustrating my point. I was the one who brought up Susskind using flow dynamics to explain relativity. So let's not pretend I don't think Susskind is evidence for my side, because he is. Because he spends the whole frickin' lectures, hours worth of lectures going through the fluid dynamics. So again, let's not pretend he doesn't spend actual hours explaining it, because he does.
It's only quote mining if it's demonstrable that the obligation's on you to then show, to validate your criticism of quote mining, that it is somehow out of context. Yeah, he uses the analogy a lot, but with a distinction, and that...
No, there's no distinction besides an offhand remark where he says, okay, yes, it's inverse square law, yes, it's this, yes, it fits all the categories. I'm not saying this is, but, he's just, again, protecting himself from being trapped. It's like me saying, okay, you have to sometimes be a little bit bold, and you say, okay, there's a material universe. But yet I have qualified that by saying, well, material could mean, yes, the little bits are made out of unicorn piss. Yes, we don't know what the tiniest thing is actually made of. I mean, maybe it's not a physical thing in any physical way that we know of. It's a little sparky arky or something. The point is that we can quantize it into a package of standard properties. There's no magical functions. They behave exactly as if they were little things that are solid, or little things that are, comparable to something we know is physical. But they're not really. Yeah, I could qualify things and be extremely careful. So yes, so in a moment of caution, Susskind says, yes, I'm talking fluid, but I'm not saying it's fluid.
Quote mine, as you put it, there's no quote mine because it is a distinction to the use of the analogy.
The point is that the distinction has nothing to do with retracting the analogy. It has nothing to do with saying the analogy isn't correct, that it doesn't fit all the necessary, it provides all the necessary consistency, and it answers all the questions appropriately. So he wasn't saying it's flawed. So you're the one arguing, he's arguing it's not a complete or satisfactory explanation, when Susskind is not saying it's not satisfactory, and that's why the other guy said the word exactly, is because he doesn't see any dramatic flaw.
Right. So this notion of exactly like fluid flow, I pose the question to remember. Is it exactly like laminar flow?
Oh no, I already pointed out how there's qualifications in Susskind's argument of how the fluid works. He uses the idea of two sheets of glass, and the fluid would be a consistent thickness and a consistent, I don't want to say a consistent pressure, but the idea would be is it goes from a high pressure to a low pressure in a perfectly consistent manner. Okay, so it's not like anything we know of, because we don't create perfect systems. But this system, the mechanics of the universe, the timing of the universe, photons traveling billions of years and not being one tiny picosecond late or 1 second early or any of that bullshit. The universe is so fricking precise. So yes, it's not like any fluid we know, because it's a perfect fluid. Yeah.
Or turbulent flow.
Turbulence from runs. Yes, I already said that. In the last video. Well, the video before this, I said there's no eddies, there's no rocks in the bottom of the stream, there's no blah blah blah. It's perfect.
Screenshot when he or I or whichever it is freezes in Minim's most video, you can see the undulation as the waterfall goes over. Yeah, it's not smooth.
So again, I said that in the video when I was talking about Susskind. I said he qualifies the dynamics of the fluid. So there's qualifications. Those are established. Yes, it's not Niagara Falls. It's perfect falls.
So the water flow isn't like water flow, right? Because the water flow equation doesn't predict those.
So this is doing it the high-minded smart person way. To not recognize the fact that when the guy said it fits exactly, and when Susskind spends days talking about it, it's under the understanding is provided that there are no trout in the stream. Yeah, there's no other elements fucking it up. It's perfect.
Undulations. This is like chaotic behavior. There are chaotic models And so, in my degree course, I didn't do differential equations, and I didn't do the related subject of fluid dynamics, but I have an appreciation of them in the calculus courses I did. And I did fluid mechanics at a younger level, though on more, not on the same.
Yes, it's really great. I'm happy for you. That's great to have experience with. But again, we're not talking about whether this qualifies you to be arrogant, okay? My argument is nobody's qualified to be arrogant. If I say the evidence for lensing is flawed fundamentally because it doesn't make any sense, there's all kinds of rules you're violating with this nonsense. I mean, I'll say this part again. If you can see in focus something 5 billion light years away and you can see it getting lensed, then anything that would be in this cone, okay, that would be closer, would create a huge flare. Something out of focus, but the photons would still be there. They'd be magnified. They would be in an image of them. So your theory is that every lensed image means there's absolutely nothing between the object and 5 billion light years away. Okay, it's in perfect focus, and nothing fits in this huge cone. Nothing. Nothing else is in it. Okay, that's the logical implications of your proposed theory, that the universe is incredibly vacant as you go back further in time, when the argument is that the universe was more crowded. It was supposed to have been smaller.
Technical basis, I became aware of the distinction between laminar and laminar flow, Reynolds numbers, and turbulent flow.
Yes, none of that's in any of this stuff, so all that math would be totally useless anyway. Okay, because it isn't complex in the sense that it's a very consistent and reliable dynamic.
The difference between
few variables, not a bunch of variables, not very many variables is the truth, especially variables that matter. I mean, if you want to know the Earth's orbit, you know, to get a good answer, not a perfect answer, you don't have to worry about Pluto. You can just say fuck Pluto, fuck fuck Uranus, fuck off. You can take a few things out of the game and get a perfectly good number.
In linear equations, linear differential equations, and nonlinear differential equations, where you can do a basic model of fluids with a linear equation, but the complexities are nonlinear equations.
Again, this is only to describe light coming off a light bulb. Okay, let's understand. It's just about understanding the fundamental feature is the inverse square law, and that's that's what 80% of the argument. And then the other little piece of the argument is the center of the sun's gravity is moving, because it's getting tugged by each one of the planets in a different manner, at a different timing. And so the sun doesn't, the center of its gravity, of its mass, is rotating in a circle.
You've got turbulence. So the statement of this, or exactly analogies, not even our fluid. No, in fact, it's a great mathematical unsolved problem about finding a solution, improving a solution to fluid flow equations, right? And there's a question that Iman doesn't understand, but it means to find solutions. Lots of the...
Yeah, whatever. You haven't asked the question, so you're saying I haven't answered a question I haven't been asked. Oh, okay. Fuck you.
Solutions that were found to Einstein's equations weren't by Einstein. Yeah?
Right, so we have solutions to Einstein's equations, as if that even makes any sense. No, what we have is modifications to Einstein's equations. That is, derivatives that make assumptions. So you said you didn't do derived equations. Well, what I've seen of derived equations is you just do some silly thing like say, well, sometimes the wavelength over the velocity is just the reciprocal of the radius over the blah blah blah. So let's just replace this with that. Because most of the time, or many times, they're the same number. They're assumptions. Small angle approximations, all kinds of little things, little tricks to change the equation. That's what these derivatives are. Find a way to make the equation solvable by turning it into something we know. And the assumptions built into that are, in my opinion, sometimes catastrophically flawed assumptions. Like, well, the slits always have the same width and they're not important.
shield Schwarzschild or whatever, Schwarzschild radius of a black hole as a solution that he found. Yeah.
So again, he calls it a solution when it's a modification. So again, it's just saying, let's change what's in this formula because we can't do this formula because we don't know this stuff. So let's put stuff that we do know into the formula and then do it. And sometimes those assumptions are correct and sometimes those assumptions are incorrect. And I frankly don't think physics knows the difference.
Was he the guy who was working in the trenches, World War II or One, yeah, and wrote to Einstein with this solution, you know, positive black holes and the Schwarzschild radius. Then there's, you know, the guy, whoever that was, I don't know, but wormholes are solutions. Yeah? And for the longest while, I didn't believe they existed in reality. Now it's getting a bit vague. Susskind says, if you'd have told me 20 years ago that I'd be doing this amount of thinking about wormholes, you know, I'd have called you ludicrous, right? And then,
yes, well, whatever. That's it. That's because, yes, the idea of multiverse was ludicrous, but now they're all dependent on it because they can't make rational sense of one universe. Their math has gotten so convoluted and their theories have gotten so silly, this information collection on the black hole and the holograms and all this other crap, that there's no way they can make any sense out of it without inventing some kind of fix-it universe where they can put all their mathematical errors, where they can slide all their bullshit into. They need another piece of scratch paper because they've gotten it all so convoluted that they can't find anything true anymore. So they have to have another blank piece of paper where they can start over in a new universe. And they'll make the same mess out of it.
Solutions. Men wouldn't even know that they pose the question of solutions. I don't know how.
So again, he keeps saying solutions, solutions, solutions. They're not solutions. No. They're modifications. They're changes.
The Einstein equation, I don't know how to find solutions. That is, I don't really understand the way in which he's posing the question. So I'm not going to call them liars for finding a solution and that wormholes aren't a solution and this, that and the other to that equation without fully understanding it. That's
right. So you're just going to assume they're right and then you're going to bat other people over the head with your witness who says, no, the formulas are the formulas and the formulas prove the formulas. And you're saying, well, that's great evidence. And I'm just going to keep pointing out to the judge, that's bullshit evidence. That's not evidence of anything but the fact that they have a dogmatic religion. That's what this is all about. You're just a bunch of dogmatists stating that our premises are valid. We think the atoms are doing this, and we think electrons do this, and we think protons and we got our gluons, and we got our Higgs bosons, and we got our whole standard model of crippity crap, and then we have our wonderful Copenhagen interpretation, our wonderful many worlds interpretations, and you can't understand them, and therefore you have to accept them as true. Fuck that. What I have to do is be reasonably persuaded, and you're saying your witnesses are reasonably persuasive. I'm saying no, they're not. They don't carry with them any evidence. They don't have videotapes of shit. They don't have models. They don't have anything. They can't even make models that are coherent to their own theory. Instead, they make distorted, bent space bullshit that's a complete distraction from the truth. It doesn't explain at all how the thing actually works.
Just basic respect. That's just a basic intellectual requirement. That to start brandishing, you're a liar, there's no such thing as...
Yeah, it's not what I've said. What I've said is there's no evidence. I've said, how many times in my videos, so just anybody who's a fair cop and wants to listen to this shit, how many times have I said the evidence is weak? I haven't called somebody a liar. I've said it's weak evidence. So when you call something weak evidence, you say it's not enough evidence to convict, or you can't be arrogant with this evidence, you can't be conclusive or dogmatic, or you just can't play this game like we got it. You can't be standing up at the press conference saying we did it on this evidence. It's not we did it evidence, and you won't concede the point. So fine, there's no argument to be made. You're just saying the Pope is infallible because the Pope says he's infallible and the Pope's infallible. So what more evidence do you need? The Pope told you he's infallible.
Wormholes. No, the claim isn't that there are wormholes. The claim is wormholes are a solution. Let's hear men talk about what that means.
I say it means you're silly people. That's what I say it means. It's fucking silly, okay? Again, Einstein's equation left this huge hole in it because it was a pulling force that went into the well, and therefore you could make this well infinitely deep. You have no end to how much pressure you can create. That's a hole in his theory. It doesn't describe the reality because it creates a fake circumstance. All right, he didn't sew up the hole, and so now you've turned the hole into anything. You can go anywhere in the anywhere in the whatever you want to call the bubbles of universes, and wormhole your way to Magic Land and Oz. It's a wormhole to fucking Oz. It's bullshit.
Now, I wanted to make a video about solutions, and solutions to differential equations, and solutions to
yeah, go ahead, waste your time, and again, play this game like these are solutions. No, they're manufactured cartoons. They're taking advantage of gaps, of imperfections in the formulas, and that's all it is. There's an imperfection in the formula in that it doesn't qualify or quantify the limitations of the force production, and they just take advantage of that.
Polynomial equations and solutions generally to lots of things. Solutions to a set of linear equations. This word solution.
Yes, well, tornadoes were a solution in The Wizard of Oz, right? We need some way to throw a cottage into Magic Land. What do we do? What do we use? Well, a hurricane might be a solution, but that's not quite... No, let's make it a tornado. Nobody can really understand tornadoes, so tornadoes can throw you to Oz. There, it's a solution. Does it mean it's true that you can get shot to Oz in a tornado? Because we can't say that's not possible? Because we don't know enough to say inside the dynamic of a tornado, it's not possible that you can access Oz that way? No, it's not my obligation to prove your cartoon invalid. It's your obligation to prove it reasonable. And I'm merely saying the evidence is incredibly weak. You have weak evidence, and yet you're stomping about like you have the truth. You don't have evidence that you have the truth.
Is used a lot in mathematics, and it's kind of confusing. And it's got a sucking fit that I can explain and understand, right? But man has no idea about this. So it's not just a flow equation. No, it's a hugely complex question. Right? It's not an equation.
Yeah, whatever. There's a whole theory based on your obnoxious jibber jabber that you think, okay, it's feasible, it's fundamentally possible that because we can't measure something inside of this, that yes, we can go to Oz. And you're saying because I have because you say you can articulate with your special knowledge a theoretical possibility, that somehow that theoretical possibility means it's a real possibility. No.
Like a quadratic equation, it's not a function. It poses questions to find functions. That's what it is. But all this, these subtleties, it's just too much to give. High school physics at layman level, let's just tell them it's an equation, and it's got an equal sign, and in a sense,
Well, again, I'll just go back to the fundamental argument that the purpose of the equations are to accurately represent the relationships between things like momentum and mass and the weight of the bowling pin and its wobble factor, and you could do whole equations about how much energy can go into the pin, and whether if it wobbles on a if it's not wobbling back and forth, but it's wobbling in a circle, processional circle, that it can absorb more energy and a certain amount of more energy. And yes, all of that is true, and you can formalize it, and it'll be incredibly complex because it all has to happen over time. And I'm not invalidating any of that. I'm saying that's not fundamental. The fundamental part is still understanding that the only factors involved here are gravity, the more force going this way, the mass of the ball, the amount of velocity it has, how well waxed the alley is. I mean, there aren't an infinite number of variables. The system isn't what you're turning it into.
And we have differential equations, and they show a relationship that's true. But a differential equation isn't really an equation in the sense of a function. In the same way, A differential equation is posing a question to find functions that can be solutions to it.
Well, it's looking for it's looking for a variable that it can understand, because it's saying, well, what can I, what can I turn to an answer of 0? So now at least I have all the variables in a certain arrangement, and I have them equal to something. So then now I have some hope of understanding if I plug in numbers, I can maybe narrow it down. Some sort of thing like that. But yes, it's a way of trying to find answers to a variable when we don't have an instrument to measure. But if you have a model, you can measure directly the relationships between the variables.
Right? It's hugely complex. Okay, the wibble wobbles around the curvature, the off of the waterfall. You could say, of course it was rocks and there's turbulence and it's, yeah, but if we did it smoothly. No, if you made, as Leonard Susskind suggests, a pipe with a totally flat surface and stopping the level rising, yeah, so it was just totally spreading out, even then you would have turbulent flow. You could watch a particle and it would go, boom, as it flows, boom.
Okay, he says you. So this is all stuff he's saying happens. Okay, I'd say that no, that's not in the physics anywhere. There is no magical woo-woo. Okay, and the only real problem you have is that pi isn't a resolved number, and that kind of stuff. So you're going to have little weaknesses in the perfection of your mathematical models, because you can't even get the constants perfectly correct. But those weaknesses are so small an imperfection that it doesn't really matter.
Yeah? Now, that blue and the tiniest particle flowing in it, it would be doing shit which does not obey the fluid equation.
Well, again, the context is that this fluid, depending on what you're modeling, you use a different fluid. If you need a fluid that has tension in it, okay, then you're again perfecting that tension. The assumption is that there is no what would happen in the real world, which is the strings would rub against each other and there'd be friction or some other thing. Obviously, these scenarios are always described as ones where, well, imagine a frictionless environment. Well, it's hard for us to do that because we don't have any access to that. But it can exist, and it does exist in the universe. There's no friction on the subatomic level.
So the purest mathematics is an idealized form, so it's not exact. Yeah, and the fact that we
no, that's the irony of what you just said. It's not exact. No, the truth is that idealized form is the real form in the real universe. The one we experience is the unidealized, dirty, more variables are stuck in it. We're the ones with the broken metaphor, okay? The perfection of the clockwork of the internal dynamics of the universe has been shown to be dependable. Photons don't go to Pluto and then fly through a slit.
The pure field equation of gravity, it has no turbulence, right? So it's not exactly like reality. There is no flow. Yeah?
Well, the argument wasn't that it's exactly like reality. The argument is that it's just like the mechanics of that flow. The variables that we understand and have identified, those variables are consistent. But again, so that's the irony of your argument. We're living in the dirty model. The clean model is in the subatomic function.
There is no turbulence. So it's just wrong, flat wrong to say it's exact. Yeah? Max Tegmark is flat wrong. Leonard Susskind is completely...
No, he said it's exactly like. Okay? So again, you're the one who's playing the word games. And Susskind said nothing about there being a flaw in the... When we say the only variables we're going to worry about are velocity, density, 5 variables. So as long as you isolate those 5 variables and understand that there's no fish variable, fish swimming upstream that doesn't exist.
Right. And I've argued for and against these two positions here now. And Mendon will not be able to meet those arguments with except, it's a push, yeah, clearly it's a push. Yeah?
So he was saying push. So again, my argument for why it's push is because first, push unifies physics. Second, it doesn't create and then destroy energy. It doesn't break conservation. The energy remains in the universe, and it does many things. As we know, that's what energy does. That's what these little bits do. They never stop. They never stop. They never stop. You always have to account for them because they never stop.
Can't distinguish between the discussion about the model, we're discussing this, and when he has nothing to contribute to meet these arguments.
So again, that's his claim. I have nothing to contribute except pointing out how you create logical impossibilities in the sense that your lensing theory and your evidence isn't consistent with what would have to be the real expectations of phenomenon that would be a consequence of your theory. So all the consequences of your theory don't exist. All right, and I point out in how your gravity wave theory can't be possible because by the inverse square law, the amount of energy that's being produced in the universe would have consequential effects. You would see it. The phenomena can't be invisible.
What he can do is say, I have this. This is the way it really works, and spend 10 minutes telling you the way it really works.
No, I don't just spend 10 minutes, but yeah, I have diagrammed the way it really works, all the way down to the function of the electrons and the protons. I've given you a real description of a sensible force dynamic that unifies physics, and this is what you're doing. You're doing your little monkey-mocky thing. And you're saying you've got the high ground. You've got the evidence on your side, and this is your desperation. These imbecilic misparaphrases of what's been put in front of you, which is a rock-solid explanation of the function.
And what's under discussion is only this, now. So discussing your hypotheses is not meeting the discussion now.
Yeah, well, I tended to stay away from discussing my theory. There hasn't been a ton of my theory in these arguments. My theory is arguing Einstein's theory and arguing this modern perversion of Einstein that claims all of these possibilities that have never been tested as just even being logically possible. Like if they have even minimal logical continuity, this conversion of mass into gravity waves, whatever the source of this magical mass, this acceleration mass. Doesn't matter what its source is, you're still violating conservation.
It's general relativity. It's irrelevant. Because you don't have a single mathematical prediction.
Okay, so now we're back to predicting something. Well, I have plenty of predictions. I predict it's going to be found that there was a hoax, this whole lensing shit. The gravity waves are a hoax. Okay, that's not how reality works. We can go down the list. Virtual photons, they were all a hoax. Certainly all your many worlds and your wormholes and your endless wells, that was all hoax. It was all bullshit. But again, you don't understand how science has a dilemma in that it's really hard to access clear videotape evidence of long past and very tiny events. And so we're still stuck with a little bit of an evidence problem. But I have described how we're getting pieces of it. The little round arc on top of the double slit pattern, that's the same as the arc of the laser beam. There's little indications, okay, of the cracks. And as those cracks are pushed and tested, I'm saying they're going to reveal the truth. Well, they're going to make it more apparent, because apparently the pile of circumstantial evidence that I've created, in the sense that I've given you a unification theory that actually does work, and the fact that I've simplified all of the complexity down to 4 functions of the universe, 4 tiny functions. I've given you a checkerboard of simplicity as the basic function, and it works. It actually creates a complex universe. Shit. But that's not good enough. So it's just your standard of evidence. And this is in light of the fact that your theory doesn't work, doesn't unify, and has, preposterous proofs like, well, it's clear the geometry tells the matter what to do, and then the matter tells the geometry how to formalize.
Malicious enough to think that if you're talking about the same variables, then you're talking about the same mathematics. No, the mathematics is a definition of how those variables relate to each other.
Right, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm saying your understanding of the relationships is flawed because of your fundamental assumptions are wrong. Your assumption about what elements in the universe can carry perpetual motion, when the only elements that can do that are these little tiny photon-like elements. No other element can capture perpetual, can have an innate perpetual motion. It has to capture it by capturing those little bits. Those little bits are the only bits that they're the only round wheels in the universe.
You are opposing the proposed way they relate to each other.
No, I'm saying your understanding of relationships, like the fact that photons can be moved by gravity, is fundamentally wrong. And everything you've built upon those silly assumptions is in turn wrong.
So your mathematics is not the same, or at least you have to demonstrate it's the same, and you.
Well, in the circumstances where the variables are the same, the ones that can't be changed, like the two-slit, for example, the only variable, you're putting a variable in, which is Huygens, and I'm putting a variable in, which is electrons. Okay, so we're changing to one variable. I'm exchanging one variable instead of a Huygens, making extra waves. I'm creating electrons, creating extra interaction. But otherwise all the variables are the same. We're not changing. We're not arguing about the distance of the width of the slits, and we're not arguing about the distance to the target. We're not arguing about any of those variables. We're arguing about what causes sine theta. We're not even arguing about sine theta. We're just arguing what created sine theta. I'm saying the electrons are creating sine theta. You say it's Huygens.
Can't, and you haven't. So even in Leonard Susskind's thought experiment about the pipe at the point and the lid, right? You've got a pump. Yeah? Is it a piston pump? Is it an impeller?
No. Again, the stated, I could quote Susskind. Okay, it's a perfect source of fluid. So for everything you lose, you gain. It's circular. So if there was a drain, the drain goes right up to the top of the fountain and puts back exactly what it took out.
Pump. What other kind of pumps are there? Centrifugal. There are various designs. I forget. Yeah? But one is a major one's impeller. There's mono pumps, which.
So again, this is, like I said, he talks about having this higher level conversation, and he is now playing some game, like in those higher level conversations where intelligent people are talking about a model that they would assume they would have to go through every one of these items and itemize. There's no trout in the water. The water doesn't have any salt in it. The atoms aren't ionized. There's no rocky bottom. They already know they don't have to do all that crap, a smart person. So you're the one being totally disingenuous here to think that anybody need to qualify that this system isn't some Niagara Falls system. It's just the fundamental, written as a formulaic variables. If you were going to write the formula of the water flow over Niagara Falls as just a basic system dynamic, you wouldn't bother with how many fish are in the water.
Type thing, but they all create turbulence in the very water. Yeah? And the sudden change of direction, yeah, the pressure hitting, because let's not forget, another way of modelling this, a more sophisticated way, but just way too complex, is to understand what really is firing balls at a surface then, and they're all going to jumble up, yeah? And create turbulence. So not even the fluid flow accurately depicts fluid flow. Understand that?
No, I'm not gonna. Again, I'm going to say that the understanding is that there's a perfect model of minimal variables, and the clear, explicit point is the subatomic universe is doing it in the perfect version. We're the ones doing it in the messy version.
The laminar flow, if we used some sort of gentle mechanism to get syrup or something to do this, would more closely be analogous to the theoretical field model. But even though there's the tiny bits of turbulence around the edge on a microscopic level, yeah.
Yeah, well, that just so he's sort of talking a little bit about like a syrup might be a better analogy or something, because we have to get to this idea that gravity doesn't just hit something and it moves like the kinetic pool balls in space. You can't just initiate a full transfer of the energy. The energy is transferred in this inductive way first, and in the sense of how the change in the pressure is created. First, that's induced, and it has to work its way through the physical body, and that's an argument I've already made. It takes the whole reason there is gravity is just because it takes time for a bit of motion to go through something like the Earth, in the sense that it can spend a very long time transferring its energy in little tiny bits to every other bit in the mass. And that it's really just spending time in the Earth. It's not really owned by the Earth, and it's that time it spends affecting the other bits that is really the velocity. That's how the velocity is transferred. So, yeah, but I'm just saying that's already stated in the underlying premises, and nobody needs that explained, that we're talking about these variables are the ones that exist, that it does take time to change something's speed, for example. Outside of, in this circumstance, it takes time for the Earth to accelerate.
These are all technicalities because you're blind to, you're unstudied on. Yeah, the transition between.
So again, he just keeps doing his pompous. We are the knowers. You are the unknowers of the secret knowledge, and it's just complete bullshit. You are the silly people looking at the world between your legs, from upside down. You're looking at upside down and from an inverted perspective.
Turbulence and laminar flow, and I think it's to do with the Reynolds number of the fluid, and whether you're going to get laminar flow as a possibility. That's from memory from 25 years ago, Reynolds numbers.
Well, you could do de Broglie, you could do all kinds of name-droppy bullshit. It really doesn't have anything to do with anything. I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with understanding. You're trying to construct the model. You're trying to say, we're living in the Rube Goldberg, we're in the middle of the thing, and we're just trying to model it out here and show how it's fucking with us.
You're just not educated enough.
You're a fat, pedophile, stupid, motherfucking, dirty, Slaven retard. So fuck you. Yeah, that's all I'll say. You're the one who's clearly uninformed about your own pomposity, and your own lack of humility, and your own lack of caution, and your completely misguided, perverse passion to defend weak evidence.
You need to start at the beginning, go back to school, get your, not have your father argue for you.
Well, whatever. I'll like I said, I'll bury you in those words. Okay, you obnoxious cunt. So I'll bury you on the ash heap of jackass. You'll just be another jackass on earth, another shit talker, another guy who talked past his competence. You're too stupid to understand what a right answer looks like, dumbass. You're too blinded by your fucking petty resentments, your fucking jealousy. Yeah.
You're really clever, you know, and you have some problems, but you're a worthy candidate. Do the hardcore schooling. It's a bit.
Yeah, no, I don't need to do physics the wrong way. That's how they've gotten the wrong answer for 100 years. So he's basically saying, go do it our wrong way. Be taught wrong passion. Think numbers are what the universe is run on. Think numbers are, that there is no physicality, there's no properties that things have, there's no consistency. No, we'll just make up fantasy tornadoes that shoot things to Oz, and your physics is so fucked up and so fucking wrong. And here you are with this you're obnoxiously saying, go learn how to do it the wrong way. No, I'm damn grateful I didn't do that. Dumbass.
Available on YouTube. We'll start at the beginning. Get your maths right. Understand the paper.
Yeah, fuck you. Fuck you, fuck you. I don't have any maths wrong, so tell me to get some maths right is idiotic. The question is whether you have any maths that's right. That's the question. Is it right not to have the slits in the two-slit experiment? Does Huygens actually happen? Is Heisenberg a real principle? Is any of that crap accurate? Is your lensing math fucking possible? Does it make any fucking sense when you fucking do a little bit of analysis and say, what are the consequences of this theory? And do we see the consequences realized in the real universe? No, we don't.
You can't do all this on the back of a fact packet, you know?
Oh yeah, well whatever. Those little cliches. Obviously, I haven't done that. I've spent 6 years or whatever watching a bunch of physics lectures, so to improve my ability to not only understand what has to be met as a physical fact, but quite obviously, I wouldn't be able to discover the unification theory if I didn't spend lots of time modeling different possibilities. And yeah, I found the one that works, idiot. You didn't. Your way didn't work, stupid fuck. I succeeded where you fucking failed, asshole. And that's going to be the fact. That's going to be a fact someday, dumbass. Alright, how much time do we have? 47, yeah, we're pretty much out of time. Well, we'll start, what the hell. So, not even an argument. That's what he's titled his rubbish.
Now then, it dawned on me.
Oh, mm-hmm.
In Mendham is not only too uneducated, too stupid in all the context I've said.
Again, these are the people who fell for impossible energy equations of gravitational waves.
Too stupidness, that too uneducatedness, that intellectual arrogance that he has, that chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, no, you're all the people with the chips on your shoulder. You're the ones, like I've pointed out, with the duplicitous standards. You know, I present a model, you can't find anything wrong with it, and so you do stupid things like say, well, where did the first electron come from? Now, you've never turned to your Stanford geniuses or any of your other geniuses and asked them that silly, stupid, retarded question.
Recognizing answers.
Yeah, got a little bit of a drip. I have to fix that. So this video probably should just end. Yeah. We got leaks to take care of next time.